Well, ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to today's Infopedia web conference titled Cloud PBX Technical Planning Architecture Session. We're finishing a few last-minute preparations for our session. We'll be getting started in just a few minutes. So go ahead and sit back, relax, and we'll be back with you shortly. Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome again to today's Infopedia web conference. You've joined us for a Cloud PBX Technical Planning Architecture session. We are broadcasting this web conference via Skype meeting broadcast, and the audio can be heard through your PC speakers. Today's web conference has been recorded on behalf of the Microsoft Corporation. If you do not consent to being a part of a recorded session, we ask that you please disconnect your browser at this time. Attendees may access the web conference recording via a link that will be delivered with an email within 72 hours post-conference. You may ask a question at any time using the Q&A panel located either to the right of your screen or by scrolling down to just below the video pane. Our presenters are going to be responding to your questions throughout the presentation and then again at the end of the presentation during a formal Q&A. And last but not least, if you experience any technical difficulties during today's web conference, first try refreshing your web browser by pressing the F5 key. If that doesn't work for you, you'll want to go ahead and click on the support link at the top right corner of your browser. And with that, we're going to go ahead and get started with our session. Presenting for us today from Microsoft, we have Senior Product Marketing Manager, Nikolai. Nikolai, the floor is all yours.
Thank you. Welcome to the session. So my name is Nikolai Moravlenkov. I'm Senior Program Manager, and I work at Skype Customer Experience and Deployment, and my team actually creates Skype Operational Framework and run this framework with selected strategic customers. So this deck is prepared as part of SOF, which is, from previous session, of course, it's practical guidance, recommended practices, tools, assets to enable enterprises to plan, deliver, and operate Skype for Business online. And just want to highlight, so everything that you have as part of Skype Operational Framework offers, and this workshop is a part of offer which called Cloud PBX and PSTN calling get deployed. Everything was run by Microsoft with real customers, and it presents accumulated experience from our and partner deployments. As usually, we would like to hear your feedback. So please, after the session, during the session, and I'm pretty sure you already reviewed several materials from this particular offer based on the sessions we delivered. So please we really would like to know your feedback, what worked, what is not correct from your point of view, what is missing, so we keep iterating on our offers. And connecting to the previous slide, when I said that we keep iterating on our offers, I just want to make sure we have this disclaimer. So we keep changing the content based on the experience we are getting, and also based on the new functionality we're introducing in our products. So for example, today we are talking about Cloud PBX, but we are keep iterating on it, and we will be updating our documentation accordingly. So please make sure, especially if you watch this video in recording, please make sure that you double check that this is the latest version of the training. This version is version 1. So in today's session, we will understand how to what collateral gets deployed for Cloud PBX and PSTN calling Skype Operational Framework offer has, and how you can leveraging those materials, complete detailed design of Cloud PBX. You will know all assets and methodology for design session, and you will also able to deliver the session on your own. If you look on the right on our Skype Operational Framework overall activities, so this session actually is a part of design session, design section, and part of plan phase. So today, as I said, we will review the workshop itself, and we also will review assets included in the workshop. Let's start from overviewing Cloud PBX and PSTN calling design workshop. So we have two similar workshops during the get deployed offer. So first one, which we are recommending delivering on site, it's during the second week of engagement. And again, the second week here means that this is our recommended flow. It's actually flow from one of our customers which we run this offer. And if you look at the second week on the right, we have high-level architecture workshop on the second week during the envisioning on site. So the goal of that workshop is actually to whiteboard with the whole project team, present the options. So here is the Cloud PBX, here is the potential option how you can connect your SIP trunk. You can connect Microsoft SIP trunk, you can connect your own SIP trunk via Cloud Connector or leverage an existing pool. Here is our options for dial-in conferencing, but this workshop doesn't answer. So this workshop, the workshop which we run on week 2, it answers only high-level questions, right? So it says, okay, we will deploy Cloud Connector, let's say, in particular sites, but it doesn't answer the questions like component design. And by component design, if we are talking about Cloud Connector, I'm thinking about Cloud Connector edge component name, or mediation component name and IP address. So it doesn't answer, and it's not the goal of that workshop on the week 2. The goal of this workshop is answer those questions. So actually, it is expected that after this workshop, you are taking as input for workshop what you've created on high level design, whiteboarded, and now you put everything in writing, assigning each and every technical detail to your solution. And as a result of this workshop, so we actually, for running this workshop, we have 2 collaterals. We have 3 collaterals. I will review them a little bit later. But the result, you will have detailed architecture document for your environment, or if you are deploying for someone, for your customer. This template, this document will contain component network, component design, network design, end user computing, right? Which clients they will use, certificate, including subject name, subject alternative name, licensing, what license available, when they will be assigned, detailed plan, how to integrate with existing PBX. Everything should be covered after this session. And as I said, this session has 3 documents to help you. So first document is design activity description, which actually describes what I'm gonna tell today, how to run the workshop, what is the place of this workshop in overall offer. The second document actually is Cloud PBX session, PowerPoint session section, and we will review this PowerPoint. It actually contains, so let's say we are designing now Cloud Connector certificates. So it contains detailed description. What are existing options? And also in speaker notes, you will find what are talking points, right? So what you should discuss with your project team. Along with this PowerPoint, we also have Word document, which called Cloud PBX architectural document. And let's go back to our example of certificates. So let's say you present in the room. Here is our option, two options for Cloud Connector for certificates. Here is pros and cons. Let's design which option we will use. Let's say option one. Let's design subject alternative name and subject name. This is subject alternative with this subject name. All these questions, and these questions are on PowerPoint, they have corresponding section in Word document. So if you ask on the session, which option you will use? We have this question in Word document. You just go together with PowerPoint, have your Word document open, and answer questions as you go. Design names, just put in architectural document. So the beauty of this approach, and we use it a lot, the beauty of this approach that after usually designing Cloud Connector takes about 2 to 3 hours, but after those 2 to 3 hours, you have all technical details captured, documented, and you're ready to go create project plan. All these 3 documents can be downloaded from Skype Operations Framework site. We have section design, and in this design section, we have the software with all 3 documents. And I mentioned already, so for example, one of the activities, certificate planning, right? Or IP address planning, or network planning. What are some skills you need to run this workshop? The workshop itself contains a lot of technical material, right? So yes, we do have speaker notes, we have talking points, but you won't be successful if you don't understand Skype for Business solutions and surrounding technologies. The goal of this, by the way, training is not to teach you Skype for Business. The goal is to how to run architecture workshop. We have additional academy sessions on Skype for Business solutions itself, surrounding technologies, and by surrounding technologies, I mean authentication, networking. But you should be prepared from technical point of view to run this workshop, be very comfortable presenting very, very deep technical slides to your project team. The second request is, of course, understanding methodology and assets which are included in the offer. Not only this workshop, but all other surrounding assets we have. And the reason behind this is very simple. So if you don't know how to run, for example, network assessment, and there is question pops up during the ports planning, because we have ports planning on this high-level architecture workshop. If some questions pops up, okay, what about planning QoS? Because we don't plan QoS here. You can also always reference, if you know fully Skype Operations Framework offer, if you know fully, you can always reference, what quality of services, exact marking of traffic we are planning on network design session, which Carneal delivered recently. Of course, you need to have right people in the room, so people who actually can answer questions. So I've been in the situations where I present to a customer the workshop and say and describe that we will be planning deep technical stuff. We will go over firewall ports. We will go over authentication requirements. And then I've got response. It was once. I can cover everything. And then the person understood actually what kind of questions we're asking. So she said, okay, let's reschedule the meeting. So not to be in this situation, just make sure that you have right people in the room. So people who actually can answer questions about hardware. If you are deploying, for example, Cloud Connector, you need to choose, is it going to be appliance? Is it going to be deployed on your own servers? You need to design capacity. And we have two options, for example, again, back to Cloud Connector example. We have two options for Cloud Connector dependence on number of simultaneous calls. You need to plan networking, and you need to people who can answer networking questions such as firewall ports, such as routing, such as DNS resolution. Certificates, of course, we discussed it a lot. And user computing, meaning clients, right? End user clients. And of course, before running this workshop, you need to run all other activities. So as I mentioned before, this workshop is actually a logical continuation of high-level architecture workshop which you created on envisioning phase. But envisioning phase also contains a lot of other activities like business use cases, network readiness, kickoff call, discovery questionnaire. So you must have all information from previous workshops in order to be successful in delivering this one. So for example, if you are planning, let's say, restriction of international calling, one of the questions we're asking during this workshop. So you must understand business use cases, you must understand what type of users you have, and you must understand who from those users is can make calls internationally and who cannot. And of course, we highly recommend that network assessment should be completed before this workshop. It can be completed after, but we recommend it to do before, so you have more data. Methodology. As I said, workshop itself can be delivered approximately 2 to 3 hours, dependent on people you have in the room, their competency, and depending on timeline. So if it's remote, it's usually runs longer. If it's on site, if you deliver on site, it can be done faster. But regardless of method of delivery, again, I recommend doing it on site. Regardless of method delivering it, so there is some flow you follow. And again, what you see here, the PowerPoint represents each and every activity here. So for example, document site design keys, site keys holders, we have corresponding section in PowerPoint. So PowerPoint contains, we are starting planning, will contain the following topics. So we are first starting planning site design and capture site key stakeholders information. And we will get to these topics in less than a minute. Then you are planning user identification management. Then you switch, and again, each section has A section in PowerPoint and B corresponding section in Word document, design document template. So you plan user identification, you document it. You plan it, who is key stakeholder, who you should ask to open ports, you documented it. Then it contains also network planning for Cloud PBX, and then planning Cloud PBX itself. There are three options of Cloud PBX. So first option is when you deploy Cloud PBX, which is in our Auth 365. And then you also connect Microsoft SIP trunk. We call it Cloud PBX with Microsoft PSTN calling, which is available in the US and United Kingdom only for now. The second option, so if you plan to deploy this solution, then you go over this section. If you don't plan this solution, then you can skip the section, and this applies for other flavors of Cloud PBX as well. Other flavors of Cloud PBX, so it's Cloud PBX where you bring your own SIP trunk. So the first option where you buy SIP trunk from Microsoft. The second and third option is where you bring your own SIP trunk for whatever reason, you probably outside of US or UK, and where Microsoft doesn't sell it, or you just have long contract, right, with your telco provider, so you cannot switch to Microsoft SIP calling now. Therefore, you decided to keep your on-premises, existing on-premises PSTN breakout, whatever it is, SIP trunk, or it can be PRI, BRI, T1, E1, depends on where you are in the region. So the next two options or sections cover option of Cloud PBX with bringing your own SIP trunk. You can bring your own SIP trunk in via Cloud Connector or via existing pool, Lync or Skype for Business. Again, you don't need to go over all three sections in planning Cloud PBX. So let's say if you only plan to deploy Cloud PBX with Microsoft PSTN calling and Cloud Connector in some regions, you go over to this section. If only one, then only one. And remember, Cloud Connector, so bring your own zip trunk, right? The second and third option via Cloud Connector and via Lync or Skype for Business pool, they cannot coexist. So you cannot run them anyway at the same time. Then once you plan this section, you go to planning voicemail, dial in conferencing. And again, as I said, outcome is completed architectural document. So our best practice is actually to plan the solution per site, per particular site. But you can run for all company if company is not huge. So let's switch to assets overview. So actually, let's review this deck, which I mentioned several times. So this is actually start of the deck, and I will not be talking to each and every technical detail here. So my goal of this section is to educate you how to deliver the workshop, but workshop itself contains a lot of technical information on the slides, and you will see them now in speaker notes and corresponding Word document. So the first step, you document site architecture. Again, there are three types of site architecture you can deploy. One is Cloud PBX with Microsoft SIP trunk, what we just discussed. If you plan to deploy it, you just open corresponding section in Word document and document via deployment PSTN calling. Or you can deploy one of the option where you bring your own SIP trunk. You can bring your own SIP trunk via Cloud Connector or via Skype for Business pool. There is one more interesting thing here is that, again, option 2 and 3, in some cases, SIP providers can centralize SIP trunks. So let's say you have users in Germany, France, and let's say Italy. And your SIP provider can centralize all numbers in one location, let's say France. And you have good enough one bandwidth, which will allow you to route media traffic. So in this case, you also can implement either Cloud Connector or Skype for Business pool in one location instead of putting them in all three locations. So that's why we have this split here. So the type 2 is centralized Cloud Connector or centralized Lync or Skype for Business pool. And type 3 is decentralized, where you put your SIP trunk provider cannot centralize it, and you put Cloud Connector or pool on each and every slide. So again, this expected to be completed on high-level architecture design. During this session, you just reconfirm this and probably go a little bit deeper in the traffic flow if required. However, we have much more deeper traffic flow later. So you just discuss this option document in Word document. Then the second thing which you're capturing this here is site contact information. Actually, who you should contact to for opening the port. Who will be doing security review for this site? Who will be your telephony point of contact? Who will be doing overall orchestration once you move to deployment? And again, as I said, we have in Word document what I just described. So site type, contact information. We have corresponding section in Word document. So once you capture the information about overall site design and contacts, the next step is plan authentication and user management. So as you know, there are two options for authentication and two options for user management. So authentication is either cloud identity or federated identity. Cloud identity means that user authenticate directly against Azure Active Directory. And the second option is federated identity, where user authenticate against your Active Directory federation services, which then present the user to Azure Active Directory. And the reason we are capturing this information, we don't support all ADFS versions of servers, so therefore we need to document it to understand this. So that's one thing, and again, the way how we run this session is actually present those options, discuss pros and cons, and document. And the next one is how you will manage users. So you can either add users directly in the cloud using Auth365 Administrator Console or remote PowerShell, or you can use Azure Active Directory Connect tool. Azure Active Directory, there is a couple things here. Azure Active Directory Connect tool, 90% of our customers, at least what we see, using either Azure Active Directory Connect tool or PeerSync. We do support any option. The only one thing is if you deploy not Cloud Connector, but if you deploy Cloud PBX with on-premises PSTN connectivity via Lync or Skype For Business pool, then if you have the version of Azure Active Directory, the latest version, you will simplify your life, because if you have, let's say, old DIRSync version, then after user migrated, you need to enable some additional attribute in PowerShell. If you have the latest version, then all required attributes will be migrated to the side. So, and when I hear from customers that we have DIRSync and documenting, I always describe this, and usually we migrate to Azure Active Directory Connect tool. Again, once you describe the options, you document what you have now. So this section were more about discovery, right? So you came, we have already authentication in place, we have site information. Now you are switching to real planning, right? So planning, and first planning of network. And if you look at arrow with list of activities, you might see that we have network planning for Cloud PBX, and then later we have also plan and document Cloud Connector specific ports. So the third after network planning for Cloud PBX. So the reason, so we actually, yes, we do plan ports 2 times. And the reason behind this is that Cloud PBX, if you deploy Cloud Connector, or if you deploy Lync or Skype For Business pool, it will require 2 sets of ports. One set of ports, it's common for any option. So it's actually when your user let's say, goes to conference. If user joins the conference, he or she will bypass Cloud Connector or your pool, right? Because home server for user, MCU, multi-point control unit, is not in Cloud Connector or pool. It's in the cloud, in Auth365. Or then user shared something, right? Again, we will go to data MCU, which is in the cloud, regardless of option of Cloud PBX you're deploying. Authentication, the same story. It goes to the cloud. So that's why, but if you deploy Cloud PBX with, let's say, Cloud Connector, and a user initiates the call, the first SIP goes to cloud, but then cloud will route this SIP via external internal firewall to your Cloud Connector. And this is the second type of ports you need to plan later. But in the beginning, you just plan common for all Auth365 Skype For Business ports. Again, we put the description below just to, when you run this section, just to set the expectation why you will be planning ports 2 times. So these ports should be planned between your actually client, right, and O365, not between your clients and Cloud Connector, not between O365 and Cloud Connector or Lync pool. It's between your clients and O365. All this traffic will go bypassing either Cloud Connector or O365. And the table, what you see here, is actually from TechNet. So we highly recommend before you delivering this session, validate that you have the latest version of this table. And during this session, security lead or your security network lead, they just go over list of this port. So let's say we need to open for let's say audio TCP UDP 50,000 to 50,019 from client to Lync home on the following destination ports. And network security lead, they just say, okay, it's opened, it's not opened, and if it's not opened, when will be it opened? Because many customers, they have change management procedure in place. And if they say, okay, our change management will take 1 month, you must document this in Word document. That's why we have the last column, which called if no when will be opened. If they can open only in 1 month, then it significantly affects your schedule. And as I said, we listed here all ports, but please copy the latest version. Everything you document in Word document. So the next one after you planned common network ports is actually you switching to planning licensing. So you are switching actually to playing Cloud PBX with Microsoft PSTN calling. So if you don't deploy Cloud PBX with Microsoft PSTN calling, then you go to Cloud Connector. But if you deploy Cloud PBX with Microsoft PSTN calling, so here are the steps. Here is the steps what you should do. For Microsoft Cloud PBX with PSTN calling, they're quite simple. First, you need to plan licensing. You already plan ports, and you need to plan phone numbers and emergency location services. When we switch to Cloud PBX with your own SIP trunk via Cloud Connector or pool, of course, there will be much more steps. But for this option, it's the most simplest one. So first of all, again, you present all licensing options just to remind you that Cloud PBX requires Cloud PBX subscription, which is part of E5 or can be purchased as add-on for E3, and plus you need Microsoft PSTN calling with either domestic or domestic and international calling. So you just describe all these licenses, and for particular site for which you are doing this planning, you just document again in your architecture wall document which license you have, and if you don't have, when those licenses will be available. If your customer has E4, you can buy for E4 Cloud PBX and Microsoft PSTN calling now, but at renew, they should upgrade to O365 E5. And again, as I said, there are two options, so you must plan either domestic or domestic and international calling. Some customers also use consumption billing. And please make sure that you describe what consumption billing does. Consumption billing actually allows you to buy for your user domestic calling only. And then if user makes an occasional international call, he or she will use money from the wallet. Let's think about this as a wallet, which you assign to your tenant as part of consumption billing subscription. So you go get consumption billing subscription, put money there, and then you say you can assign it per user. You say that that user, even though he or she assigned only domestic calling, she can make occasional calls, and here is the money which he or she can use to pay for those calls. Again, highly encourage you to describe all these aspects and document the solution. In some cases, if not right people in place, because this is a financial question a lot, if right people not in place, you can park this question and do follow up with corresponding financial people. Again, as I said, documenting the information, which licenses are in place, which licenses need to be acquired, and when they can be acquired, because it will define when you can start your project. The second step for planning Microsoft Cloud PBX with PSTN calling. Again, ports we planned before, right? So it's the second step specific to this solution. Is plan phone numbers and emergency location services. You can either acquire new phone numbers from Microsoft or port your existing numbers. In most cases, of course, customers will be porting numbers, and if they choose to port numbers, they have two options: either use automatic process on Auth 365, so just provide information, billing information, account information, and then they will receive porting date. Or for complex cases, I would highly encourage you, if you have more than like 10, 50 numbers in one port order, I would highly encourage the second option, where you leverage our porting team to do staging work for you. So you actually not go and read the order on your own, you submitting letter of authorization, and porting engineer will review the numbers, will review who is losing carrier, and he or she will provide date when the porting might happen. If you don't do this in complex cases where I would say more than 10, 50 numbers, then you can end up in the situation that you submit the request, but numbers from different carriers, and they should be submitted as one. So this porting team, it actually helps you to eliminate some common mistakes. In document, again, you are discussing, so here is the approaches, here is the options. Let's make the decision. Here is pros and cons. Again, there is a speaker notes in this PowerPoint. You document this, you document who will be doing porting, who is responsible for this. This is in the design document template. So once you've done this, next you are switching to emergency location services. Again, they are configured in Auth 365. So who will be configuring them? Which addresses should be assigned per user? So we have a table in template. Which location will be assigned per users? And who will be doing this? And here I would like also mention the fact that for customers, when you deliver this session, just make sure that they understand that there is also a pre-screening process in place, because many customers ask, okay, if my user moves from one room to other room, we have a pre-screening process in place to clarify current location. And we also highly recommend putting the disclaimer, which can be downloaded from our site, and link is here. Again, I would highly encourage, because those are legal reasons, highly encourage discuss this in details. So first of all, we have pre-screening service, but we also should set the expectation with the end users that if you are moving, the operator will don't know your exact location. Again, just review it with your customers or with your project team, and plan if you want to put the disclaimer in front of users. And again, everything documenting in the architectural template. So once you planned, so the previous two steps were related to Cloud PBX with Microsoft PSTN calling. The next steps are related to Microsoft Cloud PBX with on-premises PSTN connectivity via Cloud Connector Edition. And as opposed to the previous solution where we just had two steps, we have here much more steps. But before we jump to the steps, first we encourage you, and that's why we put this information in this deck, just to familiarize your customer what Cloud Connector is, how it works, what the network flow will look like. And we have supporting PowerPoint slides here. So you just describe that Cloud Connector is a set of 4 virtual machines on data center standard edition, allows bringing your own SIP trunk without deploying full Skype For Business or Lync server. You can acquire it either deploying on your own server or on a partner appliance. Then you just describe architecture. So those slides are animated, and in this case, we are showing the call from user John. If John places a call, it goes to online. Online does reverse number lookup to see if that number belongs to someone in this organization. If not, then we check user John's voice policy. The voice policy says you should go to Cloud Connector Edge component. SIP signal go to Edge, Edge sends to mediation, mediation to gateway, and media traffic goes directly to Edge, and from Edge to gateway via mediation. And on the left, you will see some talking points, right? There is no dependency on Active Directory. We have dial plan assigned automatically. So those are talking points just to familiarize your project team or your customer with the technology. And we present two call flows. So first was from user John who is in online, and now we are presenting also call flow from user Dave who is in on premises. Again, his SIP signaling will bypass first Cloud Connector, then it will go to Edge mediation, but media traffic will go directly to mediation server if required ports are opened. And we have full section about required ports and how we can limit those required ports later in this deck. Again, those slides is just to familiarize with the technology. And especially, and there's one more flow and user receive inbound call. Just to familiarize with the technology, and especially security and networking team, because usually they might understand what the solution is, but when you present them detailed call flow, they more aligned with what we're gonna do next, right? Because in next steps we're gonna plan specific to Cloud Connector ports. If you remember the previous slide, right? So we have two firewalls. We need to plan ports in internal, external firewalls. But overall, we have 7 steps to plan Cloud Connector. First, licensing. The second, network specific to Cloud Connector ports for internal and external network. Plan hardware, high availability, disaster recovery, and PSTN services. Plan 911 services, plan DNS resolution, certificates, and Cloud Connector components, like IP addresses and names for each and every component. Again, you are starting from licensing. I won't spend a lot of time here. It's the same, actually, not the same slide, but the same add-on you need, Cloud PBX subscription. The only exception, you don't need Microsoft PSTN calling add-on here, because you have your own SIP trunk, but Cloud PBX add-on you need. So you plan license, you document licensing, and then you switch to ports. Again, on next slide, I describe what we discussed when we discussed about common ports versus ports specific to Cloud Connector. And this slide represents it even better. So all traffic which handles by home register, and home register is in the cloud, and this traffic is LAN presence, all conferencing, all data sharing traffic, peer-to-peer calls, everything will be bypass Cloud Connector and was designed previously. The traffic which stays local, it's actually which will go via Cloud Connector is actually PSTN calls to and from external numbers only. So again, this is just to represent the team, and then you switch to planning itself. The tables here are from TechNet, so we highly encourage you to review those tables periodically, and before each and every delivery, just put those table, put the newer version of this table if available. Again, you walk just via internal, external firewall port requirements. Make sure that you fully review two options, right? As opposed to on-premises version of Lync or Skype For Business. We recommend opening 50,000 to 59,099 ports. And we say, okay, if you don't have those ports opened in your external firewall, then we can feed your media via 3478 UDP, for example, and harp into those 50K port range. It's the true for Cloud Connector as well, except that this server which can harp in the media traffic via 50K port range is in the cloud in Auth 365. So user home edge is not edge on Cloud Connector, it's edge in online. Therefore, if you have 50K port range closed to an external firewall, your media traffic will flow to user home edge, which is in online. Imagine the situation: you deploy Cloud Connector in Germany and your tenant is in the US. If 50K port range in front of edge, Cloud Connector edge is closed, then media traffic will go to the US and then back to Germany from German user, despite the fact that Cloud Connector can be in next room. So we highly encourage to review this scenario, and we prepared this slide with different traffic flow, and again document if those ports can be opened or not. Then the next step is planning hardware for Cloud Connector. Again, we have two solutions, one for 500 simultaneous calls, one for 50 simultaneous calls, depends on real load. And start planning high availability disaster recovery. For high availability, we do support up to 4 Cloud Connector per site. So with N+1, we can support with 99 port time up to 1,500 calls with N+2, meaning that all active, but 2 are reserved, right? So one can support 500 calls. Then we are saying we are deploying 4, but we will assign only 1,000 users to them, because 2 for us are reserved. And and we call this model N+2. With N+2 we can provide 99.9, but with but for 1,000 users only. And again, there is some traffic flow which helps you to describe what's happening. That Cloud Connector actually distribute calls in random order between instances, and it's just more talking points just to review how it works. So once you plan number of Cloud Connector, then you go to disaster recovery, you go to planning PSTN sites. So again, for high availability, right, we can deploy 4 Cloud Connector and combine them in so-called PSTN sites. Then if you have users, let's say in Seattle and Amsterdam, you can deploy PSTN sites from Cloud Connector, from 4 Cloud Connector, one in Seattle, one in Amsterdam, and assign users from Amsterdam Cloud Connector, from users from Seattle Cloud Connector. Again, you describe this material and make the decision based on number of users, workload, and requirements in terms of high availability and geographical placement. In many cases, we centralize cloud connectors. So in many cases, providers can centralize SIP trunks, and instead of what you see here, let's say Amsterdam, it can be European data center. So if your provider, SIP provider, can centralize European data SIP trunks in one location, you just put one cloud connector and utilize your one link to route traffic to other sites, let's say from Amsterdam to German sites, etc. So it's also possible and one of the options to consider. So once you plan those sites, then you plan disaster recovery. There are a couple considerations here. So you can either have a cold site, and then in case if disaster happens, you move your users to other sites. So you have sites fully ready. You just run one command, let's say CS user PSTN settings, and reassign to other site. The only one thing to consider that you also need to design moving PSTN trunks from one side to survived site. On the picture here you see Seattle and Portland, right? So Portland disaster recovery site. So you need to move users to Portland or point users to Portland Cloud Connector, which is very simple. But then you also need to move SIP trunks or whatever you have from Seattle to Portland. And usually providers can provide this very easy. Again, each and every section has corresponding section in Word documents. So you walk through this design and you document the solution. Sometimes customer can say, okay, no, we don't want to do disaster recovery. We will rely on high availability, and in case if something happens, we will just rebuild Cloud Connector as its INI file, right? It will take us a couple hours. So it's decision based on their requirement, but you just need to walk, familiarize, and document this. Again, as I said, you documenting number of simultaneous calls, version of hardware, number of sites based on number of simultaneous calls you need, because there could be a situation where you have more than, let's say, 5,000 simultaneous calls than you need in one location. Then you need more than one PSTN site, one location, because one PSTN site, maximum number of cloud connectors at the moment 4. Number of cloud connectors per site, and plan for disaster recovery. So once you plan this, then you plan PSTN connectivity. Again, we do support end-to-end trunks, the similar as for on-premises. You just document which gateways you have, where you will place it, and to which cloud connector you will connect them. So you plan connectivity. You also discuss options about emergency calling services. So in case of cloud connector or connectivity, hybrid connectivity via full pool, we don't own numbers, therefore we cannot report 911 or emergency information to public safety answer points. So in these steps, please make very clear it for project team and document how on your gateways it will be configured, and dial plan. So we don't have the on-premises dial plan, and we highly encourage, so in the cloud you can set using on-premises or online dial plan, and on-premises will work if you deploy via full pool. We highly encourage this cloud connector disable use on-prem dial plan. We cannot use it, and if it's enabled, it can cause some issues with mobile clients. And the last thing to plan is international calling. So again, in the cloud, you can limit option who can dial internationally. So just get list of the users who will be disabled for international calling. And again, document everything. Then you plan DNS resolution, so how your components will resolve DNS. I will not be describing in details here. It's on the slide, but it's actually either you can point edge directly to external DNS, or you can use edge server, which is deployed on domain controller of Cloud Connector. Based on security information, you just present options and document which one you will use, and also document server IP, which will be used for DNS resolution. everything goes to document. Then you switch to certificates. With Cloud Connector, we do support wildcard certificates, just to simplify. It's option 2. It's simplified deployment, so you can copy certificates between cloud connectors rather than create certificate for each cloud connector. Again, you can face with some pushback from security team, which is from security team. Just review the option, came up with subject alternative name, subject name, and document in the design. Document in the document. And then the last step is plan cloud connector components like IP addresses, country code, city, name for each component. So you just walk through this document and put this in writing. And that's it for Cloud Connector actually. If you plan, so again, this is the third option of Cloud PBX. The third option is plan connectivity via Lync or Skype For Business pool. Again, this deck doesn't contain the same level of details for like deployment component name as for Cloud Connector, because we assume that you already have Lync or Skype For Business pool. And this is actually the only viable option from our experience. So if customer doesn't have Lync or Skype For Business pool, it's much more easier deploy Cloud Connector than deploy full pool. So we assume in this deck in most cases that you already have Lync 2013 on Skype For Business pool, and the goal is not to plan the pool, it's only planned specific to hybrid voice aspects of this deployment, for the reason I just called. And there are 4 steps here. Review pre-requests, plan licensing, network, because there are some specific ports to this scenario, and plan PSTN connectivity emergency calling services. Again, we have some material overview, so what this solution can do. Then pre-requests, we have some pre-requests in terms of versions. Again, document everything. Then licensing. So what is required in terms of server licensing and user licensing? Again, you need Cloud PBX subscription and our usual note about E4 licenses. Again, document everything, which license available, which need to be obtained. And plan networking. The same applies as for previous options. So we have 2 types of ports. Again, we have slightly different schema, but this the message you want to deliver is the same. So some traffic, most traffic goes online, just some traffic goes via on-premises switches, PSTN calls to external numbers. And actually in this scenario, as opposed to Cloud Connector, we also do authentication for all users via the pool. In case of Cloud Connector, we'll do authentication directly in the cloud. And then again, you list ports, the same applies, so please copy the latest table. The same logic applies on edge pool for 50K port range, because again, the home edge of the user in the cloud. I will not repeat this. Documenting this. Plan PSTN connectivity. Again, we can plan just one thing, so how you will use that plan on premises or online. And emergency location services, the same applies as for previous option. We don't own numbers, so we don't report them. But we need to document how and who will be managing those emergency service number. And the last 2 in remaining 2 minutes, it's plan voicemail service and dial-in conferencing. So voicemail service, the planning is very simple because it's automatically enabled for end users. What you're doing is you just review the feature and functionality what you have. It's present on the slide. Present the languages and just answer the question, is it enough or not, or do you have some functionality gap, and do you have exchange online? And PSTN conferencing, you plan licensing, geo coverage functionality, and migration. Licensing, you need PSTN dial-in conferencing, which is part of E5 or can be purchased as a add-on for E3. You also review, I highly encourage to review this slide with customers. So where we provide these services, where we provide dial-in numbers, and what are known limitations. Link is in the slide. What are known limitations are, so customer fully understands some drawbacks of some known limitations, and there is no issues when he or she will face with it. And the last aspect what you are discussing is meeting migration considerations. So you are migrating from Lync or Skype For Business, we have meeting migration tool. If they are migrating from other system, then meeting should be rescheduled. Again, you need the plan and document in your design. That's it. I actually have one more. That's it. So thank you for listening. Just want to recap. So on this during today's session, we reviewed how to run detailed design. We reviewed the place of this workshop in overall engagement. We reviewed asset and methodology, and we hope we achieved our goal. And the main goal was to empower you, so you able deliver this session on your own. Again, highly encourage feedback and participate on other sessions. I hope you like this session. Please provide the feedback, and let me switch to some questions, if any. I see that all questions answered, unless. So the question what Andrew asked me to answer. So for a user with domestic only PSTN calling plan who has exhausted their allocation of minutes, can consumption billing be used to provide domestic service, or it can be used for internet? It's only for international or extended allocation of domestic minutes. Yes, it can cover. So yes, it can cover. Question 2, if CMS Central Management Store VM is a part of Cloud Connector CCRI and SQL Express. Yes, it's part of on SQL Express. The Cloud Connector is not the same code as we use on premises, but it's based on standard edition. So it's SQL Express on CMS. So any other questions? So SQL Express, yeah, answered. Okay, thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed the session, and have a great weekend.
All right. Thank you, Nikolai. All right, audience, if you've not already found it, I'd like to bring your attention to a link on the upper right-hand side of the viewing window that says, please take a short survey. That's a link to a short survey for this web conference, and we ask that you please take a moment before logging out to access it. We hope that you found today's information helpful, and if you enjoyed today's web conference or have feedback on how we can provide you with a better event, this is your chance to let us know. The survey scores are on a scale from 1 to 5, with 5 being the highest score possible. And with that does conclude today's web conference. Attendees may access the web conference recording via a link that will be delivered in email within 72 hours post-conference. I'd like to extend a big thank you to our presenter, Nikolai, and thank you, audience, for logging in and joining us today. You may now disconnect.